Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Time Trippin. My name is Marietta, and together with Mario, we're gonna be your hosts for today's Time Trip.
Welcome, everyone. After looking at protests in the 60s, today's time trip will take us back to the 70s.
70s, the time of sexual revolution which gave rise to feminism and nudity. And talking about nudity, I actually have a question for Mario. So Mario, are you feeling comfortable going, in a public space and being topless?
Why would I?
For art, of course. For example, we have a body painter here in the studio, and you can stay and 6 hours being from the bottom part topless. Would you do that? Wait. I'm just asking you. It's not a real suggestion for you. Because we have an actual model here in the studio.
Way to be a bummer, Marietta.
Well, anyways, the idea of the show, as we already saw from yesterday's episode, is to compare two different opinions and see if at the end we can find common ground.
At our couch confession, I will be talking with Tessel, an active feminist and the writer behind the blog Pisswife.
Although feminism mainly blossomed in the 70s, it already attracted attention in the late 60s. In 1967, it was the first time a woman went naked on a public Dutch television in a show called Hoopla. She went naked in the second and third episode of the show, which created commotion in the Netherlands and attracted worldwide media attention. The next planned episode was never aired, and the makers of the show were fired. In 1970, a feminist group called the Dolly Minas started protesting. They were known for their elaborate way of protesting. Some examples of their protests involved burning courses because a business school did not accept women, putting pink ribbon on public toilets because there were no public toilets for women, and many more protests that involved the topic of equal rights, sexual harassment, abortion, and sexism. Throughout the years, more acts and protests were organized. Some examples are the Me Too movement and Women's March and many more. This has set the foundation of changes in how we deal with nudity in media and a more strengthened feminist community that comes up for equal rights. There was significant progress since the 70s with women's rights, and current movements like Me Too, Time's Up, and women marches have started to raise awareness. Let's see how our first guest fights for that. Tessel got into feminism primarily because of her own experience with sexism, which ranged from slut-shaming to sexual harassment. Later on, feminism stopped revolving around herself, but rather focused on intersectionality. In July 2017, Tessel founded the feminist collective Pisswife, where she organizes events and publishes her own articles. She started doing this when she heard about a feminist sign in London. She writes articles about events involving sexism which feminism can solve.
It was a club that we regularly go to. And then we looked on the Facebook event and it said that girls with double D get free entry. So I spoke to the girl who was selling me the ticket for it, like, this is a joke, right? Or could you explain why this is in your Facebook event? Because it's kind of weird and I don't really appreciate it. And then she was like, no, yeah, it's not a joke. You can let the bouncer check for you. So we were really shocked. And then we went up to the bouncer and he was like ready to grab away.
As of today, Tessel supports many social campaigns such as Transgender Network NL, Our Body, Our Voice, and is now active in the Women's March.
This is a poster of the Women's March that was also in March this year that I helped organize. This is a poster for the launch party of the second issue of Pisswife, which was in the Melkweg on March 8th, International Women's Day. And then this is a flyer for an art expo we did in Sexyland, which is in the north of Amsterdam, which showed a lot of artworks about feminism and the themes of body and mind.
Welcome, Tessel, and thank you
you.
for joining us. So, you were the co-founder of Pisswife, a
Right.
blog that is very active amongst the feminist community. You make designs filled with poetry and visual artworks. I would like to ask you, what is your goal with Pisswife?
A goal is very hard because it's a creative project, so it's not like we're really working towards one big goal. But what we are kind of striving for is to create a platform that a lot of other feminists can recognize themselves in, and read about experiences that they've also gone through, see that they're not alone, and find out ways to deal with certain experiences.
Interesting. And what's also interesting in your blog, you also write about political figures such as Trump and Thierry Baudet. And I'm interested, like, do you get opposition from their supporters?
Definitely. We do, especially Dutch politicians. We're not really holding back in Pisswife. We're not shy of being radical or vulgar even. So, that definitely gets a lot of opposition.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay, so we're talking about the 70s, an active topic of this episode. And I'm curious, what do you think that we were fighting back then, we're also fighting for today?
Well, sexual liberation is still relevant, and that's started around the 70s, but still to this day, like, you see more nudity, but I'm not sure if it's necessarily more liberated,
Yeah. And also, speaking of that, you were also the organizer for the Women's March.
Right.
So I'm curious, was it difficult or easy to get people involved to fight?
So the Women's March is a pretty easy brand, I would say, because it's so popular already in the US. So when we started organizing this one, that was in March 2019, people already heard of the name and were very keen to join, actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Well, okay, it seems very interesting that you're so actively involved into this topic. And indeed, I would also like to thank you for all that you're doing with Pisswife, with
Thank
the
you.
women's marches. And as we're talking about the 70s, and as we know, the rise of feminism, it gave also the rise of the sexual revolution, and people became more open about their bodies. However, how do people on the street see nudity? Let's find out.
First question is, in what kind of occasion do you think it's okay to be naked?
Okay.
Show red if you think it's not okay, and show green if you think it's okay. Okay. So the first occasion is with your friends at a campfire.
Nope.
I think it's a bit weird, but yeah, it could be.
It depends with who you are go camping, but normally I don't think it's
It's appropriate.
it's the occasion.
Would you go skinny dipping?
I am okay with skinny dipping. Yes. Yes.
Yes, with those girls I would.
Do you dance naked in your own kitchen?
Yes.
In the shower, yes.
Okay. So does nudity ever offend you in a way?
No, not really. Well, sometimes, because I'm offended when it's in a public place and people show things to me like a potloodventer.
Yeah.
Because I don't ask for it. But no, most of the time I'm not offended by nudity.
I think I would be offended if somebody put his dick in my face all of a sudden. But that just never happened, so I was never offended.
So I found it really interesting that the last guy, he was actually more threatened by male nudity than female nudity. What do you think about that?
I don't understand it, really. I also think that the binary between male nudity and female nudity is a little bit exaggerated. It doesn't really make sense to me.
Interesting. And do you feel like this sort of mindset is actually invoked by the political environment we live in right now?
Yeah, I think gender is a political thing inherently, actually. So yeah, not only the differences between acceptance of male nudity and female nudity, but also the way that we separate them so much,
Yeah. And also another thing that I found really interesting in your blog was you wrote an article showcasing the transition of female depiction in movies, which was really interesting because you very actively invoke how it goes from this damsel in distress sort of situation to really hungry for power women. And I don't know, I feel like I really want to support this, but I don't feel like supporting like female dominance. So I don't know, do you feel like feminism kind of is straying away from equality?
Well, Me personally, I really don't think so. Biswife is a collective, so we all have different opinions on that, but I am definitely not shy of being a little too radical sometimes. And I feel like in order to really gain equality, you really need to push a little bit, you know? I feel like only being very nuanced and very proper all the time is not really going to get you anywhere. Like, of course, I'm not going to be over the top, but yeah,
you still have to like push for it a little
right,
bit.
You
Otherwise,
have to
it's
be,
not going to be noticed.
Yeah.
Which is also interesting because a lot of people consider males who are feminists to be kind of weird, but then again, you have celebrities like Mark Ruffalo and Daniel Radcliffe who are very vocal about being openly feminist.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about people who say that males cannot be feminists?
I think males can definitely be feminist. The only difference is that I feel like women or non-binary people have the life experience to know why they would be feminist and why it's necessary. And when cis men are feminist, it's usually because of someone educating them. So I sometimes I'm a little bit skeptical, like what necessarily excites you about feminism and why? But I'm definitely like, I'm all for it. I'm rooting for people to become more feminist, of course.
Indeed, indeed. And that's a lovely response. And thank you so much for your answers. And now, let's take a look at Marietta, who is going to check our body painter out and body model. Let's have a look.
Thank you, Mario. And today is not going to be the moment for you to shine topless. I'm really interested into the progress here, and I want to ask our beautiful model, what is the feeling of being live in the studio, and is that your first time being painted?
It's my first time being painted. I don't feel weird about it. I'm actually very comfortable because of the people making me comfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm actually fine with it, and I like showing my body, and I think women don't have to be afraid to show their body.
And it's a really nice thing to work with a comfortable model, right, Claire? I want to ask you something, but it's more connected to the topic of feminism. We are talking about women going without bras and showing nipple. For men, we know it's a bit more affordable. And if you were painting a male model, would you put those stickers on her breast?
Well, if they want, of course, but generally it's more a taboo for women to show their nipples, basically.
Yes.
So for a male, I would suggest it, but overall, it's not really necessary, actually.
Okay.
It's mostly about if you go public, then it really needs to be covered.
Thank you so much for your answer. I really wanted to know about it. And to find out more about feminism and other topics connected to it, you can go to timetrippin.com and follow what is the next guest for the show. Let's go to commercial break. Welcome back to Time Trippin. Today is 70s and topics are feminism and nudity. And who better to discuss nudity with our next guest, who is turned exposure into art and takes a stand with it. Let's have a look into Annaluz.
Annaluz Poima is a 22-year-old who just graduated for all-round makeup artist. Annaluz got into feminism primarily because of her passion for body painting. Throughout her art, she wants to express the beauty of women's bodies.
The first time I did was at school, and I just found out that I really love to do it. It's really fun. I noticed that the highest points I got were from body painting, and I just love to make art this big, and it's so open and so free, you can actually make whatever.
Annaluz wants to get rid of any bad prejudice that lies upon body painting and nudity.
People kind of look at it a little bit weird because the most time they hear or see someone naked, it's in movies or photo shoots there have an erotic side or sexy, and this is completely a different way.
The beauty of body painting is the part when the model feels more and more confident in their own body, to see their body transform into something artistic and not something to be objectified by men. Anna Luz's biggest wish is for men and women to reach equality. She believes that women will be able to dress the way they want as long as they are comfortable with it, without any double standards.
Welcome, Annaluz, and thank you for coming here. I want to start with your art. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Especially the painting with the flowers. I heard it's inspired by Salvador Dali.
Yes,
it
was.
Can you tell us more about it?
Actually, it was my exam.
Yeah.
And we had to do by Dali. And
Yes.
I chose the woman with the flower head. And I especially chose it because I could paint on a woman and keep the beauty of a woman in it. Flowers that also they stand for women in art, so I decided to do more with that and take light colors, choose ballerina clothes to keep it beautiful actually.
So you're comfortable with painting women, but were you model before yourself?
Actually, I study this, so sometimes we paint, sometimes we stand model ourselves. Also, if a friend of mine has an exam, I stand model for her and she does it for me.
Yeah.
So we do both sides actually.
And how you feel much more comfortable, being the painter or being a model?
I actually love doing both because if you're the model, you're part of someone's art. But I love to paint myself the most because then I get to do it.
Okay, and nowadays there is definitely a thin line between sexualizing women curves and it being art form. Do you think that people often mix it up and see it in the both sides, and how does it infecting your work as a body painter?
Well, if I show my work, mostly if I'm on a party and someone asks what are you doing, they are kind of shocked. Then they ask to see something, so I show them. And the women are mostly like, oh my god, that's amazing, I would love to be a model for something. And most men are like, oh my god, their boobs are there. And they focus on that, and then you are like, no, but look at the other things. It's art, it's not just a naked woman.
So you're telling me right now that it's way easier to find a woman for model?
No, men wants to model too, I guess. I haven't really worked with a man actually. I like to work with women way more. Also because, I'm a woman myself, so I know.
Both sides feel much more comfortable. And thank you so much for your answers. Oh my god, I see Mario here, there, next to the body painter. What are you doing there, Mario?
Oh my god, Marietta, relax. I'm just here to ask a few questions. Maybe afterwards it's gonna be my turn, you know. So, this looks amazing. I have a question though. I would like to ask you, do you feel dressed or do you feel naked?
I think I feel dressed because nobody was looking when I walked in, so I guess that's a sign of being dressed.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And when was the moment that you were like, okay, I feel dressed now?
Well, I think when the big colors were on and the details were okay, but well, yeah, when the big colors were on and I got the jacket on, so that's when.
And have you ever felt uncomfortable being topless in other situations before?
No.
Not really?
No, not really. Sometimes, of course, every woman has problems with their body and when they're younger. But no, I'm very open about my body and I like to, like to represent it. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Marietta, I'm also interested. How does Annaluz feel about this?
Yes, Annaluz, have you experienced before situations when you were, for example, in class and you were feeling uncomfortable?
I had it, well, of course, the first time because it was completely new. I was 17, so it was really weird to just stand naked in a class with everybody and just someone is painting on you. A teacher comes across and just is looking at your body like, oh, this could do a little bit better, this is okay like this. And one time I was standing model for an exam for a friend of mine and she actually had a guy, someone else had a guy who was the model for it, and he just keep looking at all the girls, and made everybody feel a little bit uncomfortable. Yeah, so they made sure he went to another room, so they fixed it. But that's are the only 2 times.
Yeah, well, objectification is really happening nowadays, and unfortunately that could impact your work. Do you feel that it's impacting your painting?
No, I don't really think so. I just make my art, and in musicals and movies they still ask for it, and photo shoots, and you don't see it on the street that many often anyway, so...
So you feel comfortable. Yeah. You do not, think about it, how people perceive it.
No.
That's really cool. Thank you so much. And next up, we are figuring out where feminism is standing. Let's take a look into the commercials. Welcome back to Time Trippin, the era as 70s, and joining us today to discuss the state of feminism, we have Anneluz and Tessel here in our Breaking Bread table.
Exactly, and in the 70s, let's not forget, with the hippies, we really opened up more about nudity, which is interesting to discuss. But before we dive into this, do you know what time it is?
Oh my god, Mario, are you going to strip again?
Oh my god. It's time to break the bread.
Of course. Okay, we're gonna break the bread.
Okay, you ready for this?
Yes, I'm.
Oh my god. Is this gonna work? Oh, okay.
So here it is.
Yes, let's
to our
share.
guests.
Here you go.
So, there are many girls fighting about their rights, but how far can you go to get to your goals?
And while our guests enjoy our beautiful snacks here, let's check the video of Milou.
We zijn hier vandaag in het prachtige Vondelpark van Amsterdam voor een interview met Milou Delen. Milou is een 23 jaar oude journalist die viral is gegaan met een video waarin ze topless op de Dam stond. Wij gaan er proberen achter te komen wat de reden is geweest voor deze actie.
Dat je een meisje of een vrouw uitscheldt voor slet of hoer omwille van haar seksueel gedrag of van haar kleding of uiterlijk.
Wij mag gelijk met de deur in huis vallen. Was je bezorgd toen je jezelf zo hebt neergezet op de Dam, wat andere mensen op dat moment zouden denken? Niet zozeer daarna op de video, maar zeg maar toen je dat deed. Ja?
Ja, want daar trok ik mijn shirt uit, want dan heb ik een bordje zo voor mijn lijf met ik bepaal hoe ik mij kleed. Ja. En zo van, als ik, ook al wil ik hier naakt rondlopen, dan moet dat gewoon kunnen, want het is mijn lijf. Een beetje dat statement. En heel veel mensen zeiden wel, wow, waar kunnen we dit vinden, want wat goed.
Oh,
en,
dat wel?
Ja,
mensen
ook.
gingen echt op in.
Ja, iedereen, er stopten heel veel mensen.
En vervolgens wordt het helemaal opgeblazen, media komt naar je toe.
Ja, heel heftig.
Is dat ook niet spannend? Of ja, wat voelde je daarbij?
Ja, echt een rollercoaster. Ja. Omdat ik was heel trots aan de ene kant en ik dacht, wow, nou ja, ik wilde dat mijn stem, zeg maar, dat ik gehoord zou worden. En dit had niet meer volgens mij gehoord kunnen worden dan op deze manier.
Waarom denk je dat slutshaming nou echt een ding is tegenwoordig? Zeg maar, vroeger was het minder in de jaren 70. Waarom is dat echt iets van nu?
Volgens mij is het altijd al zo dat vrouwelijke seksualiteit werd vroeger juist als iets gevaarlijks gezien. En nu, die ideeën over vrouwen en seks die veranderen natuurlijk wel een beetje, maar niet heel erg. Het idee dat de man mag veel seks hebben en stoer en de vrouw die veel seks heeft is een hoer. Natuurlijk anticonceptie en er zijn wel wat stappen verder, maar de ideeën die zitten volgens mij nog heel diep geworteld in onze cultuur eigenlijk.
Wat denk je nou dat er, zeg maar, in het ideaal beeld, wat zou er moeten gebeuren in onze maatschappij, samenleving?
Ja, ik denk nog best wel veel, maar vooral beginnen te accepteren dat vrouwen seksuele wezens zijn en dat wij zin hebben in seks en dat we niet minder seksueel zijn dan mannen. Dus ja, genoeg. Ja.
Nou, wil ik heel erg bedanken voor het interview. En dan gaan we terug naar de studio.
Yes.
That was indeed an interesting story to hear, and I would like to open this discussion up a little bit by asking Annaloes. So, would you ever consider doing something like Milou and going out like that to protest shirtless?
Yeah, I mean, I stand shirtless a lot of time, so I think I would.
Ever in a public setting like that, the Dam Square?
Yeah, I mean, if you have a body paint contest, most of it is, you know, people can just walk by and see what's happening, so we stand like it anyway.
Interesting.
We see she's comfortable in her skin.
Yes.
And Tesso, you said before that you were organizing Women's March. And how did it feel to fight for a cause you believe in?
Really good, especially with the Women's March. It's amazing that I think about 15,000 people showed up. So, you know, you feel a very strong sense of unity, and that feels amazing, really.
Truly. The energy of the whole march must have been amazing. Just
yeah,
people
it was
united there.
Yeah.
And like, Tesso, Annalou, sorry. Oh my god. How do you feel about marching? Like, would you ever consider just doing it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's amazing, and it's amazing that you did it. I mean,
not by myself.
But you never had done it before?
No, I haven't. I do want to do it sometime, but I haven't done it yet.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. And we also took into the streets and asked people to find out what is the relationship between nudity and feminism. Let's take a look.
You're gonna say if it's more art or more pornography that you're seeing on the pictures.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the first picture.
Art. Nude art.
And why do you think that?
Because he is posing all feminine and classic.
Oké.
Kunst. Dat is kunst, ja.
Ja. En waar baseert u dat precies op?
Ja, ik vind dat geen pornografisch.
Nee, en de stand, hoe dat ze staat, ja.
Ja, ik denk, nee, dat is geen porno.
Oké.
Oh, porn.
Art. I think art, yeah.
Nee, dat is helemaal geen porno.
Geen porno, nee.
Dit is meer, neigt meer naar de kunst.
Ja.
Ja?
Ja, model.
Ja. Yeah, porn. That's gay porn.
This is almost 50-50, but this is more pornography than art.
Do you think there's any difference between nudity of guys and nudity of girls?
Yeah, I think nudity of guys is way more accepted than nudity of girls. Like it's in Holland, it's forbidden to be topless as a guy and as a girl. But when a guy walks around the town with no shirt on, people say nothing. And when a girl walks around with no shirt on, she gets arrested.
I think it's more normal for girls to go naked, completely naked, than for guys. I think when you see movies, you see girls' breasts and her private parts. But for guys, not that often. I think that's the difference.
What an interesting discussion. And where is the line for you between art and porn? When did you not cross it, for example? Who wants to start?
Line between art and porn, that's a difficult one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's this one feminist porn maker called Erica Lust.
Yeah.
And she makes porn that is actually very beautiful, like cinema-wise. So I think maybe sometimes art and porn can be the same thing.
Interesting.
She calls that art in her,
she calls it porn, but she also calls it art.
Okay, that's really interesting. What about you, Annalus?
I think actually the same. I think it's different for everybody. I mean, art is completely how you look at it, and I think in porn and art, it's however you see it and want to see it.
Okay.
Well, what's also interesting that I noticed in the video is that actually it's apparently forbidden for both guys and girls to be shirtless in public. But then again, if I just take off my shirt right now, I mean, people will wonder, but no one will really care. Like, and for girls it's totally different. Why do you think that is so?
I think just how society came to. I mean, if you look back, women were dressed like completely covered and everything, and men were allowed to show more skin. And so yeah, I think if you look from that.
Interesting. What do you think, Tessel?
Yeah, I think the typically feminine body is much more sexualized, especially breasts and ass. So I guess like if you walk around shirtless, then it's gonna get a lot of attention, because I think people are socialized to really see women's breasts as very, very sexual.
But many actually argue that we now have equality, and where do you see the biggest issue of inequality, and how will you fix it then?
The biggest issue of inequality?
Yes.
That's also a very difficult question. I think one of the main issues that I'm fighting for at the moment is the rights of sex workers in the Netherlands, because they're decaying with like the rise of Christian and right-wing political parties, and what is also a huge issue is violence against women, which also is related to controlling women and their sexuality and their nudity. So it all kind of ties together.
Exactly. And also, what's interesting to me to know is, so, for example, some say that feminism is about balancing between men and women. And I mean, I have grown with a certain definition about feminism, which I also believe that it's also about the gender equality. So I would just like to know, like, if you had to define feminism, how would it be?
Just that word, equality.
Equality?
Equality.
Between men, women, gay, straight, transgender, just everything, just make it equal, don't look at it different. Give women and men the same paycheck, and if men wants to wear makeup, let them. If they want to cry, it isn't weird. Stuff like that.
Exactly.
And Tessa?
I don't know if I have like a one definition
The
for
short
feminism,
one.
right? I think it's like the really knowing that everything is interconnected and being very aware of differences in people's identity. And that's kind of like the basis for moving forward towards equality or equity.
Indeed. And I mean, this was a lovely discussion, and there's a lot more questions we can dive into regarding feminism. However, I do believe that we can do this together. Like, if we do this together, we can truly emerge into the equality of feminism.
Indeed, and thanks to powerful and ambitious women like you both, I believe, it's heading into the right direction.
Definitely.
And let's go to our body painter and see the progress of Claire and Jules.
This looks very interesting.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's amazing. And we can see our logo here.
Exactly.
Applauses for Claire. Thank you.
Well, with that, we would like to conclude our episode. We would like to thank our guests. We would like to thank everyone for joining us and for being on this time trip in the 70s and exploring the topics of feminism and nudity.
And don't forget to come back tomorrow when we're gonna explore topics connected to possessions and when enough is actually enough.
I will be your host tomorrow again, joined by the lovely Efke from episode 1. Same time, same place. Have a nice evening, everyone.